Yo, what's good, y'all? Your boy Justin Henry here, Prabhat Parmar. Today we're going to be talking about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, and tight ends to buy low on. It's that time of year where we are starting to buy low. Some people will panic. Some people are looking for answers desperately, and others, like myself, like P, we're looking to capitalize on them opportunities to buy low on talent, man. Week 4 is here, P, and obviously there's a lot to look at when it comes this time of year. Like, are you evaluating what's already happened? How are you forward thinking? Like, when you're setting up these trades in your mind, what's some of the thought process that goes behind players that you're looking to acquire?
Yeah, man. So what I'm doing at this point in time is I'm looking at the landscape of the players. I'm looking at the pre-draft rankings, and you still have to trust that to an extent, right? You're going to see like the top 10 wide receivers pre-draft where they're ranked now, and you're going to find a lot of variance. You're going to find a lot of people who are way lower just naturally, and depending on their situation, you want to look and see like why they're lower. Right? Could it be some of the players that they faced? Could it be injuries? Could it be, just difficult matchups? And then you want to also look at their next matchups. You want to also look at their playoff schedules. You want to take a bunch of these things into consideration when you're looking to target and prey on some of these weaker players, some of these people who are, 0-3 or 1-2. And, some of those players in your league that panic. Yeah, man, send them some deals, man. That's the game we're about to give y'all today.
I was about to, that's exactly what I do, especially if I have a team that's 2-1, 3-0, and I'm feeling good about it. The very first thing I do is I go league standings, scroll down all the way to the bottom, 0-3. I'm looking at what are they missing right now? Are they missing some running backs? Are they missing some wide receivers? Are there some players that have been massive disappointments where they drafted them at ADP? And I'm looking at, do I think that player has a bounce back opportunity or no? And if so, especially if the schedule looks nice, I'm looking to capitalize. Schedule to me is probably one of the more important things, because if you played 3 weeks against tough opponents, or maybe you had some bad games, now okay, things could be better on the other side if they have a favorable schedule. So that is something that I tend to look at. Schedule, I think, is super important, especially with buys coming up. Another thing I look at is, do I have enough depth to cover the type of player that I'm trying to cover, that I'm trying to trade for, right? So is this player a starter? Are they a backup that I believe in? And can I give up a little bit more and find that kind of talent on waivers right now? Because a lot of times some of these benches are filled with waiver type players. So for me, I'm very strategic about what I do right here. Not as much forward thinking to the fantasy playoffs for me personally. I am looking at what's going on right here, though, in this stretch of like, can I find a little bit of opportunity before this player who I think will provide before they break out? So let's talk about this, though, because obviously positions matter, right? So strategies are part of it, but we got to go to specific positions. Running back, let's start there. Are there any running backs you're looking at right now, week 4, before this week begins, that you're looking to acquire a certain running back, a type of running back? Like, where you at when it comes to running backs?
Yeah, with running backs, obviously there's a type of running back you want. You want somebody who is going to have consistent work, right? You also want to, some of the people I'm looking at, obviously we have just your standard, top 5-6 running backs, your Breece Halls, Saquons, Alvin, whatnot. Those are players obviously everybody wants, but just kind of taking a step, below those guys. Some players that I'm looking at that are on solid running teams, some teams that can play defense. One of the players that stands out to me is Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard. I like him for a few reasons, right? Obviously, they have questions at quarterback. This team can play really good defense, and this team can run the ball, right? Now, coming out, they're saying that him and Tajay Spears are going to be splitting work 50-50. Well, Tony Pollard is, to me, the clear and cut best running back on that team. He runs effectively. He gets work in the passing game. And they may tend to lean on him a little bit more just for the fact that, they have shaky quarterback play, right? They're not sure what they have in Will Levis yet. He has been making a few mistakes.
Right.
Granted, he's been playing some tough defenses, right? So they played Chicago, which can be a tough defense, right? They're tricky. They can trick you, sacks, interceptions, whatnot. Then they play the Jets. The Jets obviously have a stifling defense when they got things going. And then Green Bay, also really stingy defense as well, right? So they went up against 3 pretty good defenses that I would say, right? But coming up, right, they're going to be playing this week, Monday night, Miami. They're going, and I think Miami is just a reeling team. I think that they're not that good. Long story short, I think Tony Pollard is one of those players who are actually going to show that he's the better running back on the team. I think that itself is going to command more work than Tajay Spears. Like his receiving game. I like the fact that they have a good defense to lean on him as well. So, Tony Pollard for me, a buy low. Right now, he's running back, I want to say like number 23, running back 22. I can see
running backs. Yeah, I think in PPR leagues, running back 21 right now. But the thing is, I got this Titans hat on, so you know what I'm saying, I ain't mad at the pick. But like, is that really a buy low? Or are you just looking at last week and thinking like, man, he had under 10 touches last week, so like somebody's probably panicking on him because they also got a bye coming up. Even though they play Miami on Monday night, they got a bye coming up too. So like, do you think that this is really somebody you can like buy low on, or like
no?
How much do you value like that buy low component when it comes to Pollard because he's a top 24 RB?
Yeah, top 24 RB. That's what people assume he's going to be for the remainder of the season. Like that's where they draft him as, like a back end RB2, right? I look at this 2 ways. There's a bye coming up. If he's on one of those reeling teams, can they take that hit at the bye, right? Or are they looking to try and get a leg up, right? So that's one thing. 2, I just think by the nature of it, I'm a believer that Tony Pollard can be more of a top like 15 running back versus like a top 25 running back, right? Right now in PPR, he's top 21. And in order to be in that top 15, in order to be in that top 15, he's going to have to make some jumps. And I think he's going to have a breakout game coming in Miami Monday night.
Breakout game coming in Miami, man. And, I think that you got to look for that too, like opportunities. An opportunity I'm looking forward to is Josh Jacobs bouncing back as well. And this is a player that a lot of people drafted as like a top 12 guy, but there was question marks about Josh Jacobs because last season he didn't finish as a top 12 running back, which we've seen Josh Jacobs do pretty much his entire career. And going to Green Bay, there's also this narrative about older running backs changing teams and how they don't perform. But when I look at Josh Jacobs, I think this is a running back who can perform better as the season goes on, especially in Green Bay. Already faced Philly, already faced Tennessee, so we know there's some tough defenses against running backs there. But the outlook is better for Josh Jacobs, especially knowing that Jordan Love is expected back on his team. He's been having to do this with Malik Willis. So, you get a running back now who's outside of the top 30 currently right now, outside of the top 30. You can go get that as an RB2 right now, and I think you can find RB1 type value for Josh Jacobs the rest of the way. So all it takes is one mega game from him. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season, which is kind of surprising for a player of Josh Jacobs' caliber. Give me Josh Jacobs. Like right now, I think if I was going to be trading for him, I would be actively looking to get him at RB2 value. Anything that's in between a top 12 to top 24 running back, I'm trying to acquire Josh Jacobs as I can. They don't have a bye until way later into the season, week 10. And running back right now is already one of the more difficult positions to even acquire. There's only like 25 good running backs in the league. If you can get Josh Jacobs at a reasonable price, say there's a guy that's kind of breaking out, you got your Carson Steele, you have your J.K. Dobbins. You could flip one of those two with an additional player to go get Josh Jacobs. You do that instantly.
Okay, so Josh Jacobs hasn't scored a touchdown just yet for Green Bay. Is there somebody who has? Yeah, his name's Emmanuel Wilson. He scored a touchdown last week, bro. I don't know about this whole Josh Jacobs thing. I like Josh Jacobs. I like the idea of Josh Jacobs in Oakland for the Raiders, right? When I say Oakland, for the Raiders, because they run a one-back system, whereas Josh Jacobs on Green Bay, they traditionally, at least have as of recent, been running a two-back system. So, I don't know. He doesn't get much passing work, right? I mean,
but that's one of the things though. Like people say the passing work, and like when Jordan Love was there, he had 2 catches in week 1. So I think this has been like a Malik Willis thing. It's tough to like. I think on the surface, if I had Josh Jacobs, I'd be like, and I wasn't confident. I'd be like, man, what do I have? What do I have? Do I have a running back that can't catch passes? Do I have a 2-back system? That 2-back system has been utilized because Malik Willis is starting at quarterback. They've had to run the rock more. So, and he had 32 carries in week 2. I don't think this is a split carry system. This is Josh Jacobs. We trust you. So situation matters. And that's something too to note for like running backs in early part of the season. Sometimes situation, the score, just matches overall in general kind of dictate usage early on. So that's why I'm in on Josh Jacobs, bro. It is what it is, man. Who else?
It is what it is.
Is there any other running backs you like?
Yeah, man, I got a few. This running back I like. Yeah, he's coming back. I like Jonathan Brooks, bro. He could be in somebody's IR right now. Somebody's reeling right now. But this is somebody you want to look at. I think with the fact that they're looking on the up and ups just in total of a team. When they switched out, they got Andy Dalton now. Their offense as a whole just looks functional, right? Yeah. There's a few different weapons that he can go to through the air, and Jonathan Brooks, obviously coming off the ACL, he's electric. He has talent. They drafted him at the top of their draft for a reason, right? Even with that. So they're going to use him. They're already invested in him. And I think getting him right now is the perfect opportunity before he comes back. So that's somebody that I am interested. I'm curious to see how he fits in this offense. And I think that right now you can probably get him for just cheaper, just based off of how people perceive the Panthers in general.
Yeah, well, the offense isn't that good, and it's like when I see Jonathan Brooks, I'm like, okay, maybe he comes in, but like Chuba Hubbard's been performing at a decent rate, especially once Dalton came in. He looked a lot better. They've used Miles Sanders, so you don't have no concerns about this being like a timeshare at some point, because that's, to me, at least until like later on in the year where they have like a week 11, week 12 bye. At least till later on, I'm like, that's probably going to be a timeshare for a few weeks.
Yeah, like, look, bro, it can be a timeshare, but if there's guys that I'm not worried about, it's definitely not a fucking Chuba Hubbard. It's definitely not a fucking Miles Sanders. Like, these guys, there's a new regime that has taken over, right? Like, these guys are invested in a Jonathan Brooks. This team itself may not be bad or may not be good, right? They may not be going places. They're going to want to see what they can get out of their younger players.
You're just buying into this fucking, he's the next Todd Gurley. He's going to be there for your fantasy players.
No, bro, no. No, by no ways am I comparing Jonathan Brooks to Todd Gurley. What I am doing
out there, by the way, he's the next Todd fucking Gurley. Like, fuck out of here.
I don't see that. I could see him being useful in the passing game. Like Todd Gurley was good, but Todd Gurley was him until his knee said he wasn't. But, Jonathan Brooks, I think, can see sufficient work in the passing game and just make shit happen. Like they need a spark, and I think that he can potentially be that spark. So maybe a watered down. Nope, I don't want to get. I know I'm already going to get burned for that.
Nah, you better. You got to. Yeah, you got to.
I was going to say maybe like a watered down Jamal Charles. I know I'm going to get burned for that. I know. I say it. We're going to watered down though.
That need to go to the edit. That need to go to the edit. You need to call him just Tony Pollard or some shit. That's who he's going to be like. Tony Pollard. Don't be over here.
All right. I'm going to clip that up right there when they start busting. Watch.
Listen. Other opportunities, though, in that same division in the NFC South, I think there's another running back that I like, too. Rachaad White. Rachaad White's one of those players who, you could laugh all you want. But Rachaad White, listen, like his value's at an all-time low right now. He's going outside of the top 30 running backs right now. He's ranked outside the top 30 running backs so far. And it's one of those things where you hear like Bucky Irving's taking over and he's still playing 70% of the snaps. Even last week in a week where he was hurt, he's still getting the snaps. Now, did he get all the work you want to see? No, but he's still involved in the passing game. And I get it. What's the one thing everybody says about Rachaad White? He's inefficient with his touches. All he does is catch the rock. That's it. And even still in PPR leagues, that's good. And I think we're going to see a little bit more from Rachaad White as the season goes on. They've already came out and said, Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen have already said, listen, this is going to be a committee still. They're both going to be utilized. Bucky's earned more work now has made his value crater. Everybody thinks Rachaad White is like in jeopardy of losing his starting gig. I don't see it that way. I think this might be a two-headed monster, but that doesn't bode terribly for Rachaad White. It's a player who could still be an RB2 on your team. If anybody's selling for anything outside of a top 24 RB or panicking, do it. I would throw some offers with some receivers that are maybe like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 territory, and go get Rachaad White, especially at a position right now that doesn't have a lot of players. We talked about it. There's not a lot of running backs. Trade your Deontay Johnsons for Rachaad White. Go trade a Romo Dunze for Rachaad White. Go try to trade some of these guys who have been performing and go get a player who you know you can trust in your lineup.
Yeah, I just don't know about that. You said the key word, man. Somebody you know you can trust in your lineup. Can we trust Rachaad White? Bro, I'm going to throw some numbers at you. 6 rushes for 17 yards. I'm going to throw another one at you. 10 rushes for 18 yards. Bro, like, I get it. Rachaad had the most carries last year, second to Christian McCaffrey. And he only had like 900 rushing yards. That's just like ugly. For a team to function, you have to be able to run effectively. For you know what I mean? Like they were functioning last year too. You know, and I get it. He catches a rock, which does bode well. But when they're talking about increasing Bucky's work, and then you're looking at his numbers, like where do you see that those numbers match up?
I was thinking the passing game, like he's had 6 catches and 5 catches in 2 out of the games already so far. So even if that's the floor, I don't think he's going to be 2 yards per carry every single game. If you think that about Rachaad White, send his ass away for the low. Me, I think he's going to be better than that, probably somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. And if we're getting 12 to 15 carries on that, you combine 60 yards rushing, which I don't care if that amounts to 900. If I can get 5 catches out of that too and a few touchdowns, now we talking. Now we back in the same range. So I'm not worried at all about Rachaad White. I think the people that are worried drafted him as a top 12 running back expecting last year's production. And I think that's the player I'd be targeting because they're disappointed right now. Give me Rachaad White.
Yeah, take him.
Listen, at the receiver position, we got to talk about this too. What are you looking at for receivers, man? Just overall in general, you know, obviously receivers a little different than the running back position. What are you looking for? Is it like targets? Is it opportunity? Is it somebody who's injured? Like what's the main thing you're looking for with receivers?
So there's a few things, right? You got to throw in, there's targets, there's opportunities. There's also, you know, there's also injuries, right? There's also holdouts, right? Because traditionally when these players, and just about everybody and their mom was holding out. And when players hold out until like the last week of the preseason or whatnot, they have a slow start just historically, right? We see CeeDee Lamb finally taking off this Thursday against the Giants. We've seen Jamar Chase just recently have a Jamar Chase type game. You know, we have yet to see that from a Brandon Ayuk right now. And that's the player that I'm targeting right now because Brandon Ayuk last year, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns on like 74 targets, right? Right now, Brandon Ayuk is a wide receiver 58, right? And people, you know, and it's funny because people are thinking, oh, you know, well, he has held out, but he's going to have a crazy amount of opportunity with Kittle out, with Debo out, you know, no CMC, and a perfect opportunity against the Rams last week. That didn't happen, right? He didn't have a good game last week, under 10 fantasy points. So people are probably tired of him, and people are thinking that, oh, he got the bag and he's done, right? Doesn't have the dreads, has this fro thing going on. He probably gave up on life. No, but just coming as a Niner, you know, as your official Niners spokesman, they're gonna be getting Brandon Ayuk involved in the passing game. They're gonna force the targets right now. The whole Jauan Jennings thing is crazy, and it happened. But that's not going to be the norm. Jauan Jennings is nowhere near going to be taking over his reps. So get Brandon Ayuk right now. Trust me when I say this. His bounce back is going to be legendary, and he's still going to be up there at that 1,300 yards.
That bounce back. You talking about the bounce back being legendary. Ball's bouncing off his hands right now. I like Brandon Ayuk, and he got the bag. He worked hard for it, deserved it. And I think it bodes well for him. I think it helps when you have all these additional pieces. So that's going to be the one counter everybody has is like, oh, all the additional pieces are coming back. George Kittle, Debo. And I think that helps Brandon Ayuk. It takes a little bit of the coverage away, makes it a little bit harder to scheme. The only thing is, what do you value Brandon Ayuk as? You said top 10 receiver, top 15 receiver? Like when you're buying low on him, where do you think he finishes?
Yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk finishes somewhere in the top 12, top 15 range.
Ain't bad.
Yeah, give it to me all day, bro.
Yeah, I'm with you on Ayuk. I think he's a good buy low. Another player I think is a good buy low, probably in a similar range, maybe a little higher tier, Mike Evans. And this is a player like I think with Mike Evans, we've seen this. We see this all the time with Mike Evans. He has a bad week or two, And then people start to panic on him for whatever reason. Like Baker doesn't trust him. Like they won't get him the football. Like this team doesn't know that they have to get Mike Evans involved. So bad weeks against Detroit, against Denver, against Patrick Surtain. He got shut down there. We've seen historically when Mike Evans has less than 5 targets, he bounces back. He only had 3 targets last week. In 2023, when he had 3 targets, the very next game, he had 10 targets. He had 5 targets. The next game, he had 10 targets. He had 4 targets. The next game, he had 8 targets. In 2022, he had 4 targets. He has 10 targets. 4 targets, 15 targets. They get Mike the football if they forget to get him to the game before. So expect a big game, and this might be your last opportunity, especially against Philly. They could be an added effort to get Mike the football early and often this week. So we know who Mike is as a player. He's proved it time and time again. 1,000-yard Mike. We know it. 10 touchdown Mike. Like it's set in stone. You know that's where he's going to be at the end of the year. So if anybody's giving you a little bit of value on Mike Evans right now and not treating him as a top 10 to 12 receiver, you go get Mike Evans right now where you can. Mike Evans, an extreme buy low, in my opinion.
You know what? I can't talk too much trash on Mike Evans. I really can't. But in this new offense, it looks like they're prioritizing Godwin just a little bit more. So when you're talking about buying low on Mike Evans, we know historically he's been like a top 10, top 12 wide receiver, like perennial, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he finishes as that? And when you're looking to buy low, like what exactly, like where do you anticipate him finishing?
I think Godwin is the more targeted receiver, but I think both of these two finishes like top 17 to 18 receivers. And I think the one that's going to have the better season is Mike with the touchdowns. I think.
You think Mike's going to have a better season than Godwin?
Mike Evans will have a better season than Godwin. And I think Godwin may have the safer floor on a week-to-week basis. Mike will have the bigger games that spike him over there.
Ah, man, we gotta have to put some bread up on that, man. We're gonna have to put some bread up.
You know how that goes, bro. We can bet on almost anything. I can bet shit. We can bet on almost anything. But any other receivers you got?
Yeah, man, I got a receiver, man. Let me tell you like this. This dude has had the worst matchups. And I'm talking about Garrett Wilson, right? You know, coming into the season, you know, right outside that, like the upper echelon of wide receivers, everybody predicted him to have me too. You know, that crazy connection with Aaron Rodgers. We know how he targets wide receivers. We know how he pepper him in the red zone. My dog has 1 touchdown on the season.
Yikes.
Brother. Played the Niners week 1. Charvarius Ward, DeAndre Lemonor. Whatever his fucking name is. Okay, I'm done. The Titans, bro. The Titans they got a new quarterback there from the Chiefs. L'Jarius Sneed. You know, Christian Gonzalez just recently with New England. Right? Bro, listen, this week, you want to wait after this week to try and buy him because he's going up against Denver, and you know who Denver got? Patrick Surtain, bro. So the time to buy him is probably going to be after this week, but listen, and it doesn't lighten up here. I would say after week 7 because he's playing Buffalo. They got a really good defense as well. He's playing Pittsburgh, but if I'm seeing this, then the Garrett Wilson owner is seeing this. But it does lighten up after week 8. So, damn, after week 9, they got Houston.
It's bad, bro. I was going to say that. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, yo, Garrett Wilson, he got a hard-ass schedule to start the year. You got Denver with Surtain. You got Stephon Gilmore in that Minnesota defense playing well right now. You got Rasul Douglas with Buffalo. You got Joey Porter Jr. in Pittsburgh. You got Christian Gonzalez yet again. I'm sure he's probably not going to cook in New England. And you got Derek Stingley in Houston. We don't get till week 10 till we get a positive matchup for Garrett Wilson. It's ugly now for him. Right?
I know. And I'm like me giving you all the ammo against Garrett Wilson. I'm gonna tell you like this. Against Christian Gonzalez, still got targeted 9 times. Right? In San Francisco, got targeted 11 times. One thing you want to chase, if you're gonna chase anything, chase targets.
We gotta start saying Charvarius Ward is elite, bro. Because the man's is getting cooked right now.
No. And this is
right now.
Bro, he got it's
cooked
ugly
right now.
He got it. It's ugly, but I'm gonna tell you like this: teams right now are gelling because Aaron Rodgers didn't play in the preseason. His whole thing with Garrett Wilson and get on the same page, that has been delayed, but he's openly been extremely vocal about giving him and feeding him the rock. There's two players on this offense that are going to be consistent. It's going to be Breece Hall and it's going to be Garrett Wilson. Mock my words. If you're going to sell high on somebody, sell high on Lazard, right? Because they have that connection. There's that comfortability there. It's going to get to a point where it's not going to matter who the defender is, maybe after Pat Surtain, because he scored a touchdown on Christian Gonzalez. I ain't worried about Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah,
he scored a touchdown on him.
Yeah, they moved him around.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you like this. No, that was Christian Gonzalez. He caught that touchdown.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so,
you're right.
Yeah, I mean, my boy got skill now, but I'm going to tell you like this, man. They're going to get on the same page. It is partly because the competition, but it's also partly because the trust factor with Aaron Rodgers, and he's been vocal about it. Get him after this week. Trust and believe.
We're going to have to see about that. But, sometimes that is the one thing, too, is like when to trade for somebody, right? Like, and knowing when to do that. This is the week. You have, within 48 hours, you better get George Pickens. Go get George Pickens now. Listen, you drafted him outside of the top 30 receivers, right? He was a steal for you. We were anticipating this big leap because we thought Russell Wilson was going to be a starter. And then Justin Fields happened, right? We have Russ dealing with the injury. We're not seeing Justin Fields pass a whole lot. We're like, yo, what are we doing with George Pickens, right? Like, had a decent game week 1. And then we really haven't seen a whole lot from him. Justin Fields is going to pass more in this offense. They're going to have to. They haven't had to recently because they've been winning football games, playing bad offenses, going up against Denver, going up against the Chargers, which are limited offenses. As the season evolves, they're going to have to put up points, and George Pickens is literally the only receiver on this team. He's had 7 targets, 4 targets, and 7 targets. So it's not like they're not even getting the ball in those limited situations. It's just they haven't needed them. They're 3-0. Pickens about to go up against Indy this week, which has been torched by a lot of teams this season. This is the week. And George Pickens, for everything that he is, maybe he don't have 1,300-yard upside this year, but any given game, we know he can go for 150 and 2 touchdowns. We've seen it and believe it. Trust me. Now, if your question mark is Justin Fields, just know this. Remember what we saw with DJ Moore last year. There were times where he would have blow-up games and matchups where he would exploit it, including a 50-point game that he had in the middle of the season. I want to say it was week 6 last year. DJ Moore had a 50-point game. I'm not sure if that's right or not. But George Pickens can do the same, and he's been a hot and streaky player at times. If you're going to buy a receiver right now, George Pickens is the one to buy.
Yeah, I can't hate too much on a George Pickens. I will say that look, I'm a fan of George Pickens. I can't hate on my dog. You know what I'm saying? I like the fact that they are going to let Justin cook, not just on this podcast, but also in the fields. But they're going to let Justin cook on the football field. Hey, I got him all day. Don't even ask. But I'm going to tell you like this, man. I like the way that they're opening up. I think this is going to be a statement game for Justin. They're going to see if this is really a guy that's running a 3-0 team or if this is a guy that's just managing a 3-0 team. I think they're going to see that this week. And the more that they let him loose, the better Pickens is going to be. So
let Justin cook, and it's easy pickings. You feel me?
Hey, drop the mic, baby.
Listen, we got obviously running backs and receivers are like the elite positions. Those are the people that we're always looking at. But quarterbacks and tight ends too. And it's a little more difficult, I would say, for quarterbacks because we know kind of who the guys are at quarterback. And then tight end has just been a graveyard, literally, this entire season where we could probably talk about buy low for like 90% of the tight ends there are in the league. But we got to get dialed in on a couple of different ones. So let's go quarterback first. Pete, who are you looking at quarterback buy lows opportunities?
All right, so quarterback, I'm looking at my dog, none other than, and he's not really my dog, but
he your dog,
man. He's running a team that I like. I happen to own a lot of equity in this fantasy game. But my buy low right now is Kirk Cousins, right? So, I've always been one of those guys that have been saying, Kirk Cousins is more a product of a system versus like the system. You know what I'm saying? Like he was doing good in Minnesota, but he's got a good system around in Atlanta now too. And he just hasn't been doing well. He only has 4 touchdowns on the year. Two games so far under 20 points, 2 games under 15 points, only 1 20-point effort. I think that you want to buy low on Kirk Cousins at this moment right now because he's not in the top 15 quarterbacks. He's like floating around top 20. I just think that this is a situation.
Do you believe that Kirk Cousins is cooked? Because a lot of people think because of the Achilles injury, he can't push the ball downfield. Or maybe they think that he doesn't have the same, you know what I'm saying? Like you're buying a different Kirk Cousins in years past. Even if you thought he was a system QB, that was a different player than we're seeing right now. And also the team has another option, Michael Penix, which like if things don't go well for Kirk, you're dropping him at that point. Like you're not able to even hold him. You're not worried about that at all?
No, I'm not worried about it. This team, because under good competition, this team has showed flashes, right? They came out and they beat Philly in the end in the game-winning drive that Kirk Cousins led. So it's, the injury thing is a good thing to bring up. I think it's more so the fact that this team hasn't had time to gel. Like they didn't play him the preseason. It's a brand new team, an entire new cast. I really feel that as they gel together, you can see the past 2 weeks they've been making an effort to get the number 1 wide receiver there to get him
Drake
involved. London. Yeah, Drake London to get him involved, and it looks like it's paying off for Kirk's value. So I think if you get him right now, a lot of the people are thinking, oh, well, he's injured. Oh, well, they're not doing as well. But trust and believe it's going, and their schedule opens up. Their schedule actually gets a lot easier as well. So it's a matter of gelling, and it's a matter of just them knowing each other as a team. It's an entirely new team, new fucking system. Just chill. He's going to bounce back and probably land within the top, 8 to 10 quarterbacks.
Damn, that's heavy. We'll see. Like, I think that's a heavy number to say, but like, I do believe in a Kirk Cousins bounce back, especially in the second half. You may have a few weeks. The only thing I would say is like, if you're in a single QB league, it doesn't seem like much of a buy because of the quarterbacks that are out there. I still think it's more of a desperation play in single QB leagues, but in super flex leagues, I do think he's a good QB2 that you might be able to get for then cheaper than you will in about 4 or 5 weeks. Like this is a player not just this week, but I think over the next few weeks, you're going to have buying opportunities. The minute Kirk Cousins does look like Kirk, though, it's a wrap. Like there ain't no chance in hell you getting that value.
Yeah, but check this out. Like it may be the opportunity may be after Eno because Eno is a solid, strong defense. But after that, after that they got Tampa, then they got Carolina, then they got Seattle, who is trust me, the most fakest top defense in the league. Trust when I say that. Yeah, and that's not just me being a Niner fan, bro. Trust me. So he's gonna cook, bro. He's gonna cook, man. You want to get him before he cooks. So yes, yeah.
We'll see on Kirk Cousins. A player you probably drafted a little earlier than that, Anthony Richardson. We talk about buy low, and buy low is scary sometimes. It's scary because you're taking the chance that you're right on a player more so than their current value is. And Anthony Richardson has had a game. You stop sniffing your nose, Brad. He's had a game where he looked elite, right? Chucking the ball downfield. We're seeing Alec Pierce. He's making the crazy off-target throw. So it's like when off-platform throw, excuse me. Then we see two duds, bro. 12 and 7 points, which like as a starting quarterback, that's terrible. You can get like wide receiver 3s that put up better numbers than that in Superflex. And it's like, where do we assess his value? Is the passing game that much of a hindrance to his season-long value? I don't think so. We haven't seen many rushing touchdowns from him this year, just one. We haven't seen a game. We've only seen one game where he's thrown over 10 completions. You have to trust the quarterback. You have to trust the scenario in this case. And it's not like this is the only time we've ever seen Anthony Richardson. We saw him last year too. And he wasn't a guy that was putting up 12, 10 fantasy points. He was putting up 21, 24, 17, 29. Like he was putting up massive points before his injuries. I think Anthony Richardson is a player that can utilize more than the passing game to be elite for your team. I think Shane Steichen's the type of coach to get him involved and get him on the right path. I trust the system. I trust Anthony Richardson to be better. Slow start to the season doesn't mean your value's in the crater. Give me Anthony Richardson as a bounce back candidate.
Yeah, but damn though, dog. Like, come on, bro. Like Anthony Richardson last year, when we were talking about specifically passing, like it seems this is what it seems like to me, because we know his value is in the live arm, but his value is primarily in the running, right? 4 rushing attempts for 37 yards, 8 rushing attempts for 24 yards. What that tells me is that people are kind of scheming, they're game planning for that. They're game planning to say, we're not going to let this guy beat us in the rush. We're going to see if this guy can pick apart this defense through the air. So far, he hasn't been able to do that, right? So I doubt he's going to do that against Pitt this week. So, like, when you're thinking about, I know you had big aspirations with Anthony Richardson in the preseason.
I did.
Where realistically, and I'm talking about realistically, do you see him as?
I think I had him. So my potential for him was like he could be VQB1, and I don't really see a world where that happens. I don't think the volume is going to be there passing unless something just clicks for him, which in the middle of a season is highly unlikely until it's the second half of the year. Mm-hmm. So I don't see QB1 ceiling anymore. I think on a weekly basis we could see it. I think the inconsistent play will leave him more in like the 5 to 8 range when it's all said and done. And right now he's a QB15. And I think you can get him right now outside of like top 10 quarterback value, especially after this week, right? He plays Pittsburgh this week. We talked about timing is everything. He might look really bad against Pittsburgh, or they might figure some things out against the blitz, get him some checkdowns, get him some stuff closer to the line of scrimmage. He's got to prove he's more accurate. Has to, because I don't think teams will respect him until that point. But if I could buy low on that kind of player right now that does have the QB1 ceiling on any given week, especially with the rushing upside, why not do it when people are panicking the most? And like I said, this is you probably have a week and a half buy low window.
Yeah, you do. And if teams are gonna, it's tough because if he's gonna have to prove he's more accurate, who he's gonna have to lean on, man? Michael Pittman, which probably is another buy low.
The Pitt man.
Pitt man.
What about tight end, bro? Obviously, tight end's a little easier when we talk buy low. Like I'm probably gonna have I'm probably gonna have the most like easiest tight end buy low. But who you got, man? Sometimes you're a little more savvy to me when it comes to tight ends.
Yeah, man. A lot of tight ends you could buy low on. Hey, I'm more likely gonna be the guy. Don't even ask, bro. Isaiah Likely is gonna be most likely to be the guy. Listen, I've talked about this a lot. It seems like what they're doing is they're trying to figure out who is their guy in the passing game outside of wide receiver, right? Isaiah Likely looks like he's most likely to do that. It looks like he just has a better chemistry. And what I don't like to see is Mark Andrews getting 0 goddamn catches or 0 targets last game. I don't care what the coach says. The coach is going to talk. The coach is going to say a bunch of shit. Likely is the one who has been out producing. And if they're going to win games, if they're going to get this thing back on track, 1-2 right now, if they're going to get this thing back on track, it's going to be with guys that Lamar trusts. You can no longer use the excuse of, oh, I've had a car crash about 1.5 years ago, or this or that. Whoop. You got to put some numbers up, bro. You got to put some numbers up. And I really think Isaiah Likely he just has, looking at their stats aside, not just the bigger games, but he just looks like the moxie. He has the throw it to me. I'm gonna go get it. He has, okay, they got us this time, but we're gonna see him again. I don't see none of that type of talk from Mark Andrews. So I have zero reason to think that he just shares the same type of identity as the rest of that team. And as far as where I think Isaiah Likely is going to end up, he has top 5 tight end potential, bro. Nah, man, I'm here, bro. I'm here. There is not one good tight end right now that has been consistent. There's just not one. So a top 5 is not far-fetched.
Hell no.
I mean, what you got to say about that?
Man, he a Mark. That's what I got to say. Mark Andrews is the real one, though. Listen, Andrews, we know what he is. And yeah, he's had a slow start to the year, but the team has talked about getting him involved. They didn't say he needed him so far. They needed him in the first 2 games when they lost. But I think, listen, if I'm going to buy a guy, it's the guy that they pay, and it's the guy that typically has had the involvement. And I think this goes against the principles, P. We talked about going against the principles. Isaiah Likely goes against the principles. You go get the Mark Andrews after they struggle for 3 weeks. That's the type of player that you believe in the bounce back, the type that has the package that we've seen for so long. Like we already know who he is. So I think Isaiah Likely, who had a strong week, that was the guy you picked up off of waivers, you spent money on. Why are you going to invest so heavily on him when Mark Andrews is the guy you spent your draft pick on, your 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round pick on? I believe in it, and I think there's a big thing that's going to happen this weekend. It's either Mark Andrews looks the part, and we're like, yes, Mark Andrews is back, or he has another game with under 10 routes run, and we're like, fuck, he got to go. He ran like 4 routes last week.
Oh, bro.
God.
I mean, you can't call Isaiah Likely a mark when they was not marking him in the passing game. You know, Mark Andrews, these name flips is crazy. But but I'm gonna tell you like this, man. It's you know, it's telling because it goes against like, you know, how you're supposed to look at how you're supposed to approach these teams, these trades when you have invested in a draft pick. But just with that being said, all of the other things just point to them favoring Isaiah Likely because, like you said, they needed these players. They need all their offensive players. They're 1-2. You know what I mean? They almost collapsed in Dallas last week had they not been, you know, running the rock. They're 1-2. They need these players to perform. Where has Mark been? Bro, 10 routes run. Where the hell is Mark been?
On the belt carton right now. Where is Mark Andrews?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, so I really think Isaiah Likely, like I said, it goes back to just the identity of the team. It goes back to who they are, who's going to be up on that press conference talking some, we're going to get them back later. You know what I'm saying? Like the quality of targets. Yeah, give me Isaiah Likely. I think he's going to be the one moving forward.
We can't do a buy low episode without a gimme pick. This is one of the biggest gimmies, I would say, at tight end. I probably could talk about Mark Andrews here, and I think I'd be flipping a coin with him and Isaiah Likely at this point heading into the weekend. But the one certainty that's been in our fantasy lineups at the tight end position over the last decade has been one Travis Kelce. And yes, if there's a player that people are probably panicking on because you took him first, you have to take the name. You're expecting a certain amount of performance. And we see a guy in Rashee Rice completely taking over this Kansas City offense. It's tough if you have Travis Kelce right now because you're depending on a 10 to 12 type performance almost every single week, just given the fact of who he is and where you took him in the drafts. And they ain't been there. And the team that took him probably use a 3rd or 4th round pick on him. More than likely, they struggling. I mean, I don't think we've seen a big decrease in like his snaps on the field, which was one of the big things. A lot of people are like, oh, he's probably going to be 60, 50% of the snaps. 89, 91, and 77% of the snaps over the first 3 weeks. So that's been there. It just hasn't been the targets, 4, 3, and 5. And according to Pat Mahomes, teams are taking away Travis Kelce right now, which is a big problem. I think this speak out there, this 2,000-yard Rashee Rice that Pat Mahomes is talking, this is an effort to get Kelce going because this offense is going to be a lot harder to stop. I think there's a focused effort on getting Travis Kelce involved against the Los Angeles Chargers this weekend to the tune of like 80 and a touchdown at least. I think that's a floor for him this week. Probably 5-6 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. And then by that time, your buy low window for Travis Kelce is gone. I wouldn't pay a premium. I wouldn't pay like a top 3 tight end price. But I would throw a low ball offer at a concerned fantasy manager right now.
I mean, look, his highest output this year was 34 yards. And Travis Kelce is 34 years of age. It's about that time, bro. Let me ask you this.
So he's cooked.
No, listen. I like that. I mean, he's got a lot of things going for him. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid offense. He could have been playing decoy, but do you factor in the fact that he's 34 years old or just his age general? You think that that's catching up to him?
No, if he was playing less, if they were like, oh, he can't play as much, like I don't, that's not what really I look at because he performed when he was 33. 34 doesn't make a fucking difference to me. Like, it's a year. They do the same shit with Derrick Henry, with all these guys. They're trying to predict the fall off just based on age. And it would be different if he was like maybe running less routes. Or I think the only thing we're seeing here is a changing of the guard, where this was a Travis Kelce-led team buy-in by far. And I think now it's a Rashee Rice-led team. And I think that has happened. The passing of the torch has happened. I think that's clear and evident. But I still think Kelsey's going to get involved, and it's just a matter of time before it happens. So that's the owner I'm panicking right there. The one I'm targeting right there is the one that's panicking on his value and thinks, damn, he's done. He's cooked. I'm sending low balls out, bro.
Yeah, it's just one thing, man. Travis Kelce, we know him to have swag. We know him to have, all that shit. But when he comes in, with the style,
Taylor Swift.
He's got the Taylor Swift, the guy's haircut like that. He's just a different person to me. But I mean, with all that being said, it is the easiest buy low. And although he may not be tight end 1, I could definitely see top 6, top 7 tight end.
The moral of the story when it comes to buy low early in the season is pounce on panic. You can't spell panic without
yo ass, bro, because he is for patience, and I'm telling you like this. I'm gonna do it like this, man. Scared money don't make no money, boy. Let me tell you, it don't make no money, man. But it is what it is, man. But I like Travis Kelce. He's always gonna be.
Buy low season is here. We will also talk about sell high opportunities here very shortly. For myself, for Prabhat Parmar, we will see y'all on the next one. Peace out, y'all.